Sonic, I just had a realization that we're going to like be in the grave someday, Big Sonic. We're going to be in the grave someday, Big Sonic, and we're not going to be alive anymore. What's going to happen then? What's going to happen to us after we pass away, Big Sonic? When we're in the grave, one day we're going to be in the grave. What's going to happen then, Big Sonic? Well, Small Sonic, quite frankly, when we're in the grave, we're probably just going to get eaten alive by worms and parasites and insects and etc. and stuff, and we're probably going to turn into skeletons, and then I perhaps assume that our consciousness is going to like kind of be exterminated, and we're just going to see blackness for eternity. Perhaps maybe that's what's going to happen. Well, in that case, Big Sonic, I'm fucking petrified and terrified, Big Sonic. Are you telling me that one day when we're in the grave, when we're like in the grave and we're no longer moving and alive, we're just gonna like get slowly eaten alive by worms and parasites, etc. And then we're gonna turn to skeletons, and then our consciousness is going to be exterminated, and then we're going to be staring into the abyss and blackness for eternity. Is that what's going to happen to us, Big Sonic? Now, Small Sonic, settle down, Small Sonic. Honestly, Small Sonic, I'm not too sure. None of us really know what's gonna happen to us when we get into the grave and when we kind of stop being alive. It's a big fat mystery, Small Sonic. You don't need to like worry too much about it though. I guess, but inevitably it's gonna, one day we're gonna all be in the grave. And it is quite petrifying, terrifying and stuff. Big Sonic, we're getting older and older and older. We're getting closer to our graves. What the fuck how am I supposed to deal with this, Big Sonic? I'm fucking petrified, terrified that one day I'm gonna be in the grave, and then perhaps maybe I'm just gonna turn into a skeleton. My consciousness is gonna be exterminated, and I'm gonna be staring into the abyss and blackness for eternity. Big Sonic, what can we do about this, Big Sonic? Well, Small Sonic, people and hedgehogs and other types of sentient creatures for centuries have now been trying to figure out how do we achieve immortality? How do we prevent death and the aging process? And quite frankly, Small Sonic, no one in our history has ever came up with a very effective solution to stop the aging process and death itself. Quite frankly, Small Sonic, there's been ancient emperors and like kings in the past have tried to like figure out, okay, how do we prevent death? How can we achieve immortality and live forever? But no one in our past has managed to like figure out like what is like the ultimate like recipe to solve these types of issues and problems. Quite frankly, Small Sonic, you're just gonna have to like man up and hedgehog up and face death. You're gonna have to look at death in the face and stare at him and make sure you're confident and not a little bitch. Big Sonic, but I can't do that. I'm going to wet the bed if I do that, Big Sonic. I'm so scared and petrified of dying, going in the grave, turning into a skeleton, looking into the abyss for eternity and blackness, having my consciousness exterminated. Big Sonic, tell me there's some type of solutions to these types of issues. Sorry, Small Sonic, but again, people in our past, ancient emperors, kings, whatever you want to call it, have been trying to like conceptualize and try and formulate different types of solutions to these issues and etc and stuff, but no one has ever like found a cure to death and the aging process. So it's just inevitable that we're all going to be in the grave one day, and you're just gonna have to own up to it and man up to it and accept that. Big Sonic, I'm so petrified. I can't look death in the face. I'm gonna wet the bed, Big Sonic. I'm gonna wet the bed. I'm not gonna be able to like look at death in the face and embrace the ultimate reality, the inevitable reality that we're all going to just be in the grave, decomposing, turning into skeletons. Our consciousnesses are going to be exterminated. I'm so petrified, Big Sonic. Small Sonic. Well, quite frankly, death indeed is like quite a tragedy. The aging process is a tragedy, but all of these types of things are inevitable, and you just quite honestly, Small Sonic, you just have to kind of man up and own up to these types of things, because all of these types of things are inevitable and they're going to happen to us one day, and we're all going to turn older and older, and then we're going to be in the grave, and now we're no longer going to be alive. This is just inevitable, Small Sonic. Big Sonic, I'm petrified, terrified, I'm going to wet the bed. What can I do? What can we do to prevent these things from happening? Small Sonic, we can't do anything. You're just going to have to own up to it and man up to it, and quite honestly, just look death in the face. But Big Sonic, you said that when we're in the grave and when we're decomposing and getting eaten alive by parasites and insects and whatever, turning to skeletons and our consciousness exterminated, you said that what's going to happen afterwards is that our consciousness is going to get exterminated. We're just going to be looking into the abyss and blackness for eternity. Is that what's going to happen to us, Big Sonic? Well, nobody really knows what's going to happen to us after we pass away, Small Sonic. There are like a lot of religious beliefs. Maybe we might go to heaven and hell, or you might reincarnate. It's all a big mystery. Still, Big Sonic, I'm not gonna see you again after we pass away and when we're in the grave, Big Sonic. I'm not gonna see you again. I'm not gonna be able to chit-chat anymore. I'm fucking petrified and scared about this, Big Sonic. Well, Small Sonic, that's just how life works. We're born, and then we turn old, and then we die and go into the grave, and then we're no longer alive, and then whatever happens afterwards is a big mystery, but you just gotta kind of have to see the beauty in all of this, Small Sonic. Big Sonic, I'm so petrified. Well, Small Sonic, if we lived forever, wouldn't it all get boring and kind of like sad, and well, not sad, but wouldn't it go all boring and mundane? Maybe it's like a blessing that we all inevitably turn old and go into the grave and die and pass on. Well, Big Sonic, I'm still petrified. I'm gonna have to go think about this. Well, Small Sonic is getting like very like emotional right now. I better go and comfort him, and that's about it, guys. Hey guys, the topic of this video is going to be about death. Death. Now I do enjoy talk. I talk about death a lot on this channel. I'm not too sure, but it's very important that I now talk about like death. It's because, you know, if you cut through all of life's bullshit, one of the things that you'll quickly notice is death at the end. If you see life as like a movie, the ending's just gonna be you in the grave. Like, maybe not as a movie, but if you see life as like some type of a sequence of things, like some type of chain of events, etc. The last thing that you're gonna like see is probably death. You're gonna be facing death after. If you cut through like all the bullshit of life, at the end you're just gonna be looking death in the face, and you're gonna be like kind of close to like going in the grave, and etc. The topic of this video is going to be about death. Death is so horrifying to think about, isn't it? What does it even mean? What does this word terminology mean? Death? What the fuck does that mean? Obviously, death. It's like a terminology that describes this type of basically like the end of our lives, the end of life. That's what death is. Death is like the opposite of life. Death is like when we as human beings, we are no longer capable of like functioning in any type of way. Our organs, nothing works anymore. Our brains don't work anymore. We don't even like generate conscious thoughts anymore. We turn into like mush. Our bodies, everything just shuts off. Death is basically like death is the end of everything, so to speak. It's like death is what's gonna happen to us after all of this bullshit that we're going through right now. It doesn't matter what you do in your life, what accomplishments you make, or whatever happens to you, where you are in your life. Like maybe you might be a bum, or you might be like some billionaire or whatever. It doesn't matter. Regardless of all these superficialities, death is the thing that's gonna like. We're all going to like meet death at the end, and inevitably all of us are gonna like face death. We're gonna literally like we're all going to face death inevitably in the end, regardless of our like socioeconomic like positioning and etc. and stuff like that. But death is inevitable. Death is like the end that we're all going to like meet up on, where we're all going to like be like kind of like facing death at some point inevitably. So okay, but why am I making this video about death anyway? What's the point of this video? What the fuck am I talking about? Well, the video is just, I'm just kind of trying to enlighten you. That's like the whole point of my channel really, actually, is to enlighten you guys, to give you like all of these like meaningful insights I have. And one of the most meaningful insights I have right now is, you know, death is like kind of inevitable. We're all going to like face death at the end of our lives. If you really cut through all of life's bullshit, you're going to be like noticing that death is like kind of like at the end. It sort of is. What do I mean by like death is at the end? If you cut through all of life's bullshit, you would slowly, carefully realize that, where regardless of what you do, whatever you do, what you're doing right now, or what you're up to, or whatever happens to you, you're going to be dead inevitably in the end. After everything is like finished up, I guess, in the sense that like after maybe perhaps like a couple, because as human beings we only live for like so long. We don't live for like a billion years. We only live for like 100 years, just a couple decades really and stuff, and then we fucking die. So after like a couple of decades, you're gonna be like fucking in the grave. You're maybe not in the grave. You're gonna be in the hospital bed. Then you're gonna be like fucking put in the grave. Man, think about how fucking scary death is. Death is like, it's what we're all going to like come face to face with death, regardless of whatever you're doing right now, whatever happens to you, what your socioeconomic background is, what your socioeconomic positioning and etc. Whatever, regardless of like all these like superficialities, like. Well, like you might be a bum, or you might be a rich guy, or you might be a billionaire, or you might again be a bum with no money and resources. Regardless of all of these superficialities, death is what's going to like. Death is like it's what's waiting for you. Is what death is waiting for all of us. Inevitably, in the end, we're all going to like have to like meet death and like embrace death. And maybe perhaps death. If you can kind of picture death as like a woman, we're all going to like be kind kind of like fun. We're all going to like kind of like, I mean, we're all going to like kind of like, if picture like death is like a woman. This is kind of easier to imagine. Death is like a woman, and she's like at the end, all of us, we're going to like meet this like a woman called Death and etc. And she's going to like embrace us and etc. and stuff, and we're going to like feel her like presence on us, and we're slowly, she's gonna like suck our soul out of our body, and we're just gonna be completely brain dead, which is kind of fucking horrifying, isn't it? But you know, if you picture Death as like a woman, there's like this special like woman that's gonna meet you after perhaps just only like a couple of decades, because really us human beings, a lot of us we tend to think that we're going to live forever, which is like, this is also like a good, like, this is like the reason I'm making this video, because a lot of us, we always feel like we're going to live forever. Really, us human beings, we only live for a couple of decades. Think about it, like perhaps 1 century, not even a century, only a couple of decades. Really think about it. Most human beings only live till they're like, when you're like, a lot of us tend to only make it till we're like maybe perhaps 60, then 70, 80, 90. That's kind of very rare, and then that's it. And then people that are like 100 years old, they're like very rare, but obviously they're going to die anyway soon enough. But so yeah, us human beings, we only live for a decade, a couple of decades. That's so fucking insane. A lot of us, we don't think about this at all. A lot of us, we don't think about this at all. That us human beings, we only live for a couple of decades and then we're gone forever. Isn't that kind of interesting, isn't it? A lot of us, we always have like these like delusions of grandeur and whatever, that we're going to be on here on this planet for like a cajillion years. Really, we're only going to be here for like a couple of decades and then we're going to be gone forever. And so this is like, the topic of this video is so important, death. You must like kind of contemplate on the topic of death, the nature of death, etc. Picture death as like a woman. Death is like a woman, and she's going to meet you inevitably in the end. And are you going to be ready for her? I don't know. Or like, she's gonna, like, when you meet her, she's gonna suck your soul out of your body, and you're gonna be like kind of like completely like on the ground, shaking, etc. Maybe you're not even be shaking, you'll be literally brain dead. That's what death is like. Us human beings, that's when we become brain dead. Our consciousness is no longer in our brain. We literally lose this type of like, you know, like right now you have this type of like feeling of like being alive. All of that disappears when you're facing Lady Death. She's gonna like take everything away from you, and you're just gonna like completely like be paralyzed on the floor, maybe not even paralyzed. You're literally just gonna be completely like a zombie, like a dead body. You're not gonna have any type of soul in you. Death is like when the human soul departs, whatever that means. Because I know also death, like, well, what does that actually mean? Death, if you're religious, like a Christian, Muslim, Jew, you're gonna see like death as like a door. Death is like what is like a door to a different world. When we die, we pass on to a different world. We literally, our soul, we get transported into like heaven, hell, whatever you want to call it. Heaven and hell, it's not really Christian, Muslim, Jew, not necessarily Jews. Do Jews believe in the afterlife? I'm not too sure about that. Christians, maybe perhaps. Muslims for sure. I know, so the Quran's like very explicit about the afterlife. The Bible, the Old Testament, is a little bit dubious. And the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, is kind of a little bit dubious on the afterlife. But regardless, like, yeah, it depends on your perspective on death. Death is like, so like, obviously none of us human beings, none of us really know what's going to happen to us after we die, after our time is up. Again, like you know, it's stereotypical, like there's like a glass and there's like some like sand that's filtering through, and that's like, that determines like time. None of us are going to understand or like have any idea about like what's going to happen to us after we die. It's when our time is up, when the glass kind of empties all the way. It's all like a big fat mystery, death. Obviously, your perspective, you might be a religious person and you're going to think that we're going to go to a different place, or you might be some type of like atheist, agnostic person, a materialist, a scientist, and you're just going to say that, well, us human beings were like fucking, basically us human beings were like robots. Basically, we're like computers, and when, you know, like a computer, when the hardware stops working, the circuitry stops working, the software disappears. Like in this case, the hardware is like our bodies, and the software is like our consciousness, soul. No more hardware, no more software. So no more. If our bodies, if once we die, if our bodies start to disappear, like decompose, etc., then the software, our consciousness, soul is going to go with it. And that's a lot of like atheists, scientists, materialists. They'll tell you that after we die, that's basically it. And then we're gonna be staring into the abyss for eternity, and that's fucking quite insane to think about. Indeed, isn't that very insane, scary actually? Quite insane and scary to think about that. Once our time is up on this planet, we're just gonna all like fucking disappear forever. That's kind of insane. I don't know. Obviously, death is like a mystery. It's a big fat mystery. Lady Death is like a mystery. Nobody knows what she's actually about. Nobody knows what's gonna really happen to us after we die. It's a big fat mystery. Don't let anybody like fucking come to you and tell you that this is what's going to happen to you after you die, after you pass away. It's all like a big fat mystery. It's a very interesting mystery, isn't it though? Now, death is like inevitable, but none of us know what's going to happen to us after we die. It's a big fat mystery, isn't it? It's such an interesting mystery, such an intriguing mystery. I do believe for centuries now, many philosophers, kings, emperors, whatever you want to call it, important people in our past, they've been trying to to come to terms with death and dying, and they've been trying to theorize, conceptualize what really is going to happen to us after we pass away and die and disappear off this planet forever. And it's a big fat mystery, and nobody has really properly logically worked out what actually is going to happen to us after we die. Quite honestly, it's a big fat mystery. But death is inevitable. You can literally, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to die. You can sit down on your bed. You can literally lie down on your bed like this. You could literally not even get out of your bed. Let's just say for whatever reason, you thought to yourself that you decided that you're just going to stay in your bed until for 100 years. You could do that. You could literally do nothing and you're going to experience death. Death is inevitable. Lady Death is going to meet you regardless of anything. Even if you do nothing, whatever you're doing, nothing, regardless of anything, you're going to experience. You're going to meet Lady Death. You're going to experience dying, and you're going to not be alive. That's so important to understand. Death is inevitable. Why am I making this video? Because a lot of us, we tend to live our lives as if we're immortal, as if we have an infinite amount of time on this planet. And this is so you have to really carefully think about this. That us human beings, we only live for a couple of decades, and then that's about it, and then we're gone forever off the face of this planet. Why am I even making this video? To really help you kind of understand, realize that we're not going to be here forever and stuff, and you got to really contemplate on this. Definitely you want to contemplate on the afterlife. Definitely you want to carefully study a lot of the, I'm also really encouraging you to study a lot of the world religions, Islam, Christianity. You got the Bible there. And I got a bunch of other books. You got the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, all these different books and religious scriptures and whatever you want to call it. You want to fucking study all these religious scriptures and books and religions, because remember, us human beings, we're only here for a couple of decades, and then we're going to disappear and go away forever. Very important that you carefully think about the nature of death, what's going to happen to us after we die. Don't be a dumb, ignorant retard. Don't be a dumb fuck. A lot of us human beings, we're dumb fucks. We don't tend to think about these very important existential issues. But really think about it carefully. Us human beings, we're only here for a couple of decades, and then inevitably we're gonna meet Lady Death, and she's gonna embrace us, and we're gonna fucking get our soul sucked out, and we're just gonna turn brain dead, and then our bodies are gonna turn to mush, and we're gonna be gone forever off the face of this planet Earth. Death is inevitable, but you must really carefully contemplate on death, dying. Think about death very carefully, intimately. Lady Death, picture death as being a woman, Lady Death, and you're gonna embrace her, you're gonna feel her hands inevitably, and she's gonna suck the soul out of you, etc. and stuff. Death is so scary to think about indeed. Death is inevitable, isn't it? Isn't it terrifying, petrifying? You can literally sit on your bed. You can do nothing. You can be in a room, completely isolated, cut off from the rest of the world. You can be in a room, completely isolated, cut off from the rest of the world, do nothing for your entire life, and you're gonna die. It doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna die. Isn't that so interesting? You can fucking be in a room, completely isolated, cut off from any type of meaningful contact, interactions from other human beings. You can not even give a fuck about doing anything. You can just be fucking doing nothing. But you can literally just be eating your shit for a kajillion years, and you're gonna die. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna fucking die. You can be a fucking bum. Even if you become a billionaire, get all the money you want, or you can be a bum, not care about any money. You might just want to drink your own piss on the street outside, I don't know. Doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna fucking die. Isn't that so funny? Death is I do see death as being the great equalizer, because a lot of us, some human beings are born into a very impoverished position. Some people are born into poor third world countries. Other human beings are born into very wealthy countries. Some people are born into poverty. Some people are born into richness and etc. Some people are born into wealthy families, etc. I'm being kind of a dumbass with my words. Some people are born into poverty, some people are born into wealthy families. Regardless of all of this, death is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter what your background is, socio-economic background, what type of family you're born into, what country you're born into, regardless of all these superficialities, we're all gonna we're all going to meet Lady Death, and she's gonna touch us and feel us up, and we're gonna get our soul sucked out, and we're gonna turn into then we're gonna fall to the ground and die, maybe not fall, maybe you might already be dead maybe you might already be on the ground, I don't know. Anyway, death is inevitable. It's so interesting. You gotta carefully think about death, the nature of death. You gotta contemplate on the afterlife. I do encourage you to study a lot of the major world religions. Definitely the Abrahamic faiths, specifically read the Bible, the Quran, get like a good understanding of these types of scriptures and text. Maybe read the Hindu scriptures and texts as well. Read all the major world religions and their holy scriptures and texts. The Bhagavad Gita for Hinduism and the Pali Canon for Buddhism and etc. And there's so many other types of religious scriptures and texts. Go through all of them and carefully contemplate on like the nature of death and the afterlife. Because death is fucking, Lady Death is gonna meet all of us in the end. We're all going to like fucking meet Lady Death, and she's gonna touch on it. She's probably gonna like fondle us and stuff. I don't know, maybe rape us, I don't know. We're probably just gonna get our souls sucked out of our bodies. That's inevitable. That is the ultimate inevitable reality, and you gotta really carefully think about that. And death is the ultimate reality. We're all going to like meet Lady Death in the end. It's fucking terrifying, isn't it? I know what you're thinking. Fucking, who cares? I don't know. Maybe you might be a dumbass. You might not give a fuck about like the nature of death and the afterlife, whatever. But even if you don't give a, even if you want to ignore, even if you want to be ignorant and you don't really want to contemplate on like death and the afterlife, etc., you got to understand, us human beings, we're only here for like a couple of decades and then we're gone forever. Isn't that funny? Couple of decades. Most of us, we only live till we're like 60. That's about it. And then maybe 70, 80, 90. But your health is gonna be fucked anyway. You're when you're like 70, 80, 90. I hope I don't make it to that age. I hope I just die young. Fucking hell, being like a fucking old geezer. I'll put a bullet in my brain if I was like a fucking old geezer. Fucking hell, yo, I don't even want to think about that. But I know it's gonna happen inevitably. That all of us are gonna turn to old shits. We're all gonna turn to old geezers, maybe drinking our own piss. But you gotta understand, you're gonna die, man. And you gotta contemplate on these issues so carefully and intimately, the nature of death and the afterlife. Think about these things very carefully and precisely. Because death is gonna, Lady Death, we're all going to meet Lady Death in the end. Isn't that kind of interesting? If you kind of picture death as being a woman, we're all going to meet her in the end and stuff. And who knows what's gonna happen afterwards? I don't know. It's a big fat mystery. Don't let anybody like kind of like tell you what the true, like what exactly is gonna happen to us after we die. Heaven, hell, reincarnation, etc. It doesn't really matter. Death is Lady Death. We're all going to see her in the end, and it's quite insane to think about. Indeed, death is inevitable. You can be in a room that do nothing forever. Like you can literally just be inside like an isolated room, eat your own shit and drink your own piss for like I don't know, for decades, maybe perhaps a couple decades. It doesn't matter what you do. You can literally just eat your shit and drink your own piss for as long as you want to live and stuff. You're still gonna die in the end. That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter what you do, whatever you're doing right now, what you accomplish. It doesn't matter. All of that becomes kind of meaningless because we're all gonna like fucking see Lady Death and she's gonna suck our souls away. Death is quite terrifying indeed to think about. I do encourage you to carefully think about it though, because if you can choose to be ignorant, you can just choose to ignore death and like the aging process, whatever. But you know, it's fucking. You're gonna like one day like really like you're gonna like see yourself as being like an old geezer or an old man, and you're gonna be looking in the mirror. You're looking in the mirror and you're just gonna fucking shit your pants because you're just gonna realize, oh fuck, now I'm an old shit. Oh fuck, my time's nearly up. Oh fuck, I'm gonna die now. And you're gonna meet Lady Death and she's gonna maybe try and rape you. I don't know. And she's gonna suck your soul away. Death is so important. You must contemplate on death. It doesn't matter what the fuck happens to you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're gonna die, experience death, and you're not gonna be on planet Earth anymore. Death is like fucking inevitable. It's inevitable that we're all going to fucking die, not be here anymore, and we're gonna like fucking disappear off the face of this earth forever and ever, cajillion years. Actually, not even cajillion, because again, us human beings, we only live for like a couple of decades. I don't know why so many of us, we think that we're gonna be here like for, we always feel like we're gonna be on planet Earth for like a fucking maybe a cajillion years. That's so weird to me. Isn't it interesting that we're only alive for like a couple of decades and then we turn old and then we disappear forever? It's quite insane. Death is inevitable. You can choose to be ignorant. You can be a dumb fuck. You might not even give a fuck about like all these important existential issues and death, the nature of death and the afterlife. You might choose to be ignorant. It doesn't matter if you choose to be ignorant. It's kind of like it's going to be your own undoing. It's because even if you ignore death and the aging process and the afterlife, even if you want to be ignorant, choose to be ignorant, you're still gonna have to meet Lady Death in the end. You're gonna have to meet her and you're gonna have to shake her hand, and she's gonna like fucking take your soul away inevitably in the end. Again, you could be in like a room completely cut off from the rest of the world, isolated, detached, in a room, no stimulation. You could literally just be in a room, an isolated room, eating your own feces and drinking your own urine, You can be doing that and you're gonna still die in the end. You can be like a billionaire, you're still gonna die in the end. You can be a bum, you're gonna still die in the end. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're up to, what your occupation is. You're gonna like fucking die in the end. Death is like, I do see death as like the great equalizer. Isn't it like a good, like death is like really is like the great equalizer, isn't it? You can be it doesn't matter if you're like born into a rich family or if you're born into poverty or whatever. We're all gonna like face Lady Death, and she's gonna like fucking take our soul away and stuff. We're gonna be like gone off the face of this earth, you know, and stuff forever. And then who knows what's gonna happen afterwards? But you know, death is inevitable, and I do see death as being the great equalizer. You can be a bum, a billionaire, it doesn't matter, because we're all gonna die, and that's about it. And then we're not gonna like be able to take anything with us and stuff. So death is like the great equalizer. Death is inevitable, though. You must carefully contemplate on the nature of death and the afterlife. Why am I making this video? Because I'm trying to enlighten you. I'm trying to like help you realize that we're only here for a couple of decades and then we're gonna be gone forever. So really carefully contemplate on these issues and the nature of death and the afterlife, and that's about it.